On May 11, 2016, Chinese student Yangjie Li went jogging at dusk in Saxony-Anhalt, Germany. She pulled her hair back in a ponytail, wore workout clothes, and listened to music on her headphones. She ran along the beautiful, quiet streets, past closed shops and apartment buildings. But soon she mysteriously disappeared into the dark streets. Welcome to Red Eastern True Crime. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to my channel. Let's dive into this story. Yangjie Li was born in 1990 in Jiaozuo, Henan Province, China. She was the only child in her family and grew up in a loving home. She is gentle, kind, and passionate. After graduating from high school, she studied architecture at Henan University of Science and Technology. Yangjie had a passion for architecture and dreamed of studying Bauhaus architecture at a prestigious school in Dessau, Germany. In 2015, her dream came true when she was accepted to Anhalt University of Applied Sciences. The university's School of Architecture is located in Dessau, a small city in the eastern German state of Saxony-Anhalt, about a 2-hour drive from Berlin. Located in the center of Dessau, the school offers courses in English and attracts students from all over the world. In 2016, about 600 Chinese students were studying there. Yangjie liked the city and settled into her new life in Germany quickly. She shared an apartment in the center of Dessau-Roßlau with some fellow Chinese students. Doing well in her studies, she was confident about earning her master's degree and was only a few months away from graduating. On May 11, 2016, a Wednesday, after finishing her classes for the day, Yangjie went to the grocery store and then returned to her apartment to change into her running clothes. A light gray shirt with black pants and black sneakers. At 8:30 p.m., she said goodbye to her roommates, put on her headphones, and went out for a jog. Hours passed, however, and she still did not return to her apartment. Her roommates became worried and called Yangjie, but she didn't answer. Some of her roommates went looking for her along her usual running route, but they couldn't find her. The next morning, when they saw that Yangjie still hadn't returned, they informed the school's liaison officer, who helps Chinese students. They told her that Yangjie had not returned from her run the previous evening, which was unusual because she never stayed out overnight and could not be reached. The liaison officer quickly called the police to report Yangjie missing. Dessau police quickly mobilized hundreds of officers to search for the missing foreign student, Yangjie. Her disappearance caught the attention of the school, and the Chinese community began spreading the word on social media. Yangjie's classmates contacted the Chinese embassy in Berlin for help. The police soon found out that Yangjie lived a simple life. She spoke good English but not German, and mostly hung out with her Chinese classmates. On May 11th at 8:30 p.m., she left the shared apartment. It wasn't yet dark in Dessau. Yangjie's usual running route started in front of the apartment on Johannes Street, then went through Haussmann Street, and finally led to the square and the city park. The police focused their search on the city park and surrounding areas. By midday, the streets were filled with police officers and cars. A helicopter with a thermal imaging camera searched Yangjie's route, and foot searches were conducted with sniffer dogs. Local Chinese residents and students also joined in the search. The whole town knew about Yangjie's disappearance, but by nightfall, no clues had been found. Yangjie's cell phone last pinged off a tower near her home at 9:40 p.m., the last sign of the night she disappeared. When police tried to call her cell phone the next morning, a man answered, but quickly hung up before they could talk. 4 minutes later, the phone was disconnected. The police search continued through the night, and at 11 a.m. on May 13th, a group of officers found the unclothed body of a woman under a bush-covered tree next to an apartment building on Haussmann Street. The body had multiple injuries to the head and body, and the face was so badly damaged that it was unrecognizable. After forensic examination and DNA testing, it was confirmed that the deceased was Yangjie, who had been missing for 39 hours. The spot where she was found was only 100 meters from her apartment, and only 300 meters from the nearest police station. Police searched extensively in and around the area where the body was found, but did not find Yangjie's clothes, phone, or apartment key. The forensic report showed that Yangjie had multiple fractures from severe blows, defensive wounds, and signs of repeated assault, and the estimated time of death was between the night of May 11th and the early morning hours of May 12th. In the hours before her death, Yangjie was brutally and painfully tortured. Male DNA was found on her body. Forensic experts concluded that there was a large distance between the place where she was killed and the place where she was dumped. Dessau police then entered the suspect's DNA into the database for comparison, but found no match. They also questioned Yangjie's teachers and classmates and checked with people with criminal records. Since the suspect and Yangjie's keys had not been located, her roommates became very concerned about their safety and began preparing to move out. On May 18th, about 600 Chinese students held a memorial service on the square in Dessau. According to Chinese tradition, the mourning period lasts 49 days, or 7 times 7 days, with prayers held once a week. This serves as a reminder to the police and a warning to the murderer. A week after Yangjie's murder, her devastated parents arrived in Dessau from China. It was their first time in Germany. Yangjie's mother couldn't bear to see her daughter's body and stayed in her apartment, unable to stop crying. Yangjie's father, Mr. Li, an experienced police officer, remained calm despite his grief. Mr. Li offered to help with the investigation and asked to be taken to the place where his daughter's body was found. Dessau police investigators believed that Yangjie had been kidnapped by a stranger while running, taken to a place outside the city center where she was sexually assaulted and killed, and then her body dumped back in the city. Mr. Li, after examining the pine tree area where his daughter was found and reviewing her running route, had a different theory. He felt that the murder occurred near the pine tree area and suggested that residents and businesses in the area should be thoroughly investigated, especially the apartment building under construction next to the pine tree. Mr. Li thought that if the dump was far from the crime scene, the risk of exposure would increase. However, he was surprised to find something unexpected in that building later. Meanwhile, the police continued to search for clues on the outskirts of the city. On Saturday, May 21st, Yangjie's roommates were moving out. The perpetrator was still on the run, leaving them feeling scared and anxious. They also noticed that their nearby German neighbors were loading boxes into a car, which struck one roommate as odd. She wondered if even the local Germans were afraid. On May 23rd, a young man named Sebastian Flesch, a resident of Dessau living on Haussmann Street, entered the Dessau police station on Wolfgang Street. The police recognized Sebastian because his mother, Ramona, was a police officer, and his stepfather, Jörg, was the chief of the Dessau police station. Sebastian explained that he and his fiancée, Xenia Lang, might know some information about the Yangjie case. Sebastian explained that on May 10th, the night before Yangjie disappeared, he was at home watching The Simpsons, while Xenia was out shopping. Xenia bumped into Yangjie and asked if she wanted to have a threesome with them. Yangjie agreed. Sebastian said, quote, "It was Xenia's idea. She wanted to spice up our relationship. She brought the Chinese woman upstairs and we had voluntary sex for an hour. I came 3 or 4 times during that time," unquote. Sebastian said he had nothing to do with Yangjie's death. She was fine when she left his apartment. He said that the foreign DNA on Yangjie's body could be his, and he was afraid of being falsely accused. That's why he went to the police to clear things up. The police arrested Sebastian and found Xenia the same day, and took her to the police station as well, both denying any involvement in Yangjie's murder, with Sebastian claiming he only came forward to clarify why his DNA was on a murder victim's body. The couple volunteered for DNA swabs, claiming they had nothing to hide. With 2 suspects in custody, the police searched the apartment at 9 Johannes Street, where Sebastian and Xenia lived. This apartment was in the same building that Yangjie's father, Mr. Li, had mentioned earlier. However, the police did not find anything in the apartment. Soon after, Sebastian's DNA was proven to be an exact match to the DNA found on Yangjie. Although no evidence was found in Sebastian's apartment, the police began a detailed search of the entire building. Due to construction, many apartments were unoccupied, and only a few were occupied. While inspecting one vacant apartment on the first floor, the police made a shocking discovery. The room was covered in bloodstains, up to 3 meters high on walls and floor, resembling a torture chamber. On May 24th, Chief Prosecutor Volker Bittmann held a press conference to update the public on the investigation. He announced that 2 suspects had been arrested. He did not explain the suspect's role in the murder, but mentioned that Sebastian had turned himself in, and the prosecutor focused on emphasizing that Yangjie willingly participated in a threesome at the crime scene. Yangjie's parents were furious at the press conference when they heard the prosecutor's insulting accusations against their daughter. Sebastian and Zenia's claims that they saw Yangjie on May 10th were soon disproved by Yangjie's teacher and classmates, who confirmed that she had been with them all day. Yangjie's parents filed a formal disciplinary complaint against Bittmann for speaking publicly about unsubstantiated allegations about their daughter. However, the Ministry of Justice did not remove Bittmann from the case. After the press conference, some media in Germany and China began to report extensively on the death of the Chinese woman after a threesome, which outraged Chinese students in Germany and the entire Chinese community in the country. They felt that the police were not only protecting the criminals, but also damaging the victim's reputation. By the end of May 2016, not only Chinese residents in Germany, but also many German citizens joined the movement. They held memorial events for Yangjie and campaigned for justice in various cities across Germany, urging the authorities to take action. As the news spread on social media, the identities of Sebastian's mother and stepfather were revealed. People began to wonder if they had helped Sebastian hide his crimes. Sebastian's mother, Ramona, had been a police officer for over 20 years, and his stepfather, Jörg, had been the chief of police in Dessau for 4 years. After Yangjie disappeared, Sebastian called his mother more than 40 times, which was much more than usual, and even called her 10 times in one day. On Saturday, when Yangjie's roommates were moving out, they saw Sebastian's mother and stepfather helping him. Ramona later said that she didn't go into the apartment building because her knee was injured, and she couldn't climb stairs. Jörg explained that he only helped load boxed into the car and stayed out of the building the whole time. People noticed that Jörg was one of the police officers who had met Yangjie's father. When Mr. Li suggested that the murderer must be someone who lived nearby, Jörg stood right in front of him. Meanwhile, Sebastian's 40 other criminal charges were revealed, including arson, criminal damage, and assault. Despite his extensive criminal record, Sebastian's DNA was not in the database, leading to suspicions about his mother Ramona. Sebastian, born in 1996, was described as introverted from an early age and had attended special education classes. At the time of the incident, he was 20 years old, hadn't attended school for many years, and was not working at the time. He was unemployed and receiving financial support from the government. Ramona had Sebastian when she was 19 and raised him as a single mother for many years before marrying Jörg. Whenever Sebastian was in trouble, Ramona always stepped in to help him. In his early years at school, Sebastian inappropriately touched a female teacher. When Ramona was informed, she refused to believe it and instead blamed the teacher, turning the situation around. In the early stages of the investigation into Yangjie's case, Ramona insisted that the search focus on the area near the park. Many police officers knew that Ramona's son lived in the building next to where the body was found, but they quietly chose to overlook this information and failed to even ask Sebastian who lived closest. On Monday, June 6th, the day after Yangjie's funeral, Ramona and Jörg both took the day off to host a party to celebrate the opening of their beer garden restaurant Freundschaft, meaning friendship. While Yangjie's family and friends mourned her death, Ramona and Jörg drank and laughed with their guests. The local community was deeply angered by this behavior, and even Jörg's superiors felt that they could have postponed the opening out of respect for the murder case their son was involved in. As a result, the police department had no choice but to suspend them both for investigation. The Yangjie case was transferred from the Dessau police to the Hall police, and the investigation soon made new progress. Sebastian and Xenia lived on the third floor of the apartment building, which had an antique shop on the first floor. The owner of the shop provided police with CCTV footage, showing Xenia lingering near the building's entrance on the evening of May 11th. At 9:34 p.m., Yangjie jogs into the frame. Xenia called out to Yangjie and appeared distressed, using hand gestures and body language to indicate that she was asking Yangjie to help her with something upstairs. Yangjie looked hesitant, glancing over her shoulder as if hoping someone else would be there. But no one was around, and Yangjie followed Xenia into the building and never came out. At 2:24 a.m. on May 12th, Sebastian came out of the apartment building, walked around the building a few times, seeming to be looking for something, and then quickly went back inside. The police were shocked to discover that Xenia was the one who lured Yangjie into the apartment building. At the time of the incident, Xenia was 19 years old and already the mother of 2 children, one from her previous relationship and the other with Sebastian. Xenia was shy, small, and childlike in appearance and demeanor. Police found that in the weeks before Yangjie's murder, Sebastian had searched for terms such as bondage, Asian women, and rape on a pornographic website. On the night of the incident, he searched for information on when a body starts to smell and how to hide a body. Some residents of the apartment building mentioned hearing a woman's long, chilling screams that night, but they didn't think much of it, because Sebastian and Xenia often played strange games. During this time, a woman came forward and said that Sebastian had sexually assaulted her twice in 2013 and threatened her not to tell anyone. When she saw him arrested, she decided to speak out. Sebastian and Xenia's trial began in Dessau on November 25, 2016. They were charged with murder, but both Sebastian and Xenia maintained their innocence. They remained silent under the guidance of professionals, only allowing their lawyers to answer questions. They even held folders in front of their faces at all times to protect their privacy. After 2 months of trial, Xenia could no longer stand the pressure of the evidence and tearfully broke her silence to tell her side of the story. At the age of 12, Xenia was sexually abused by her stepfather. At 16, she became pregnant by her high school boyfriend, who later left her. At 17, she began a 3-year relationship with Sebastian. However, their relationship was anything but normal. Sebastian often gave her orders and punishments, and required her to perform disturbing acts while he filmed them. She was familiar with the relationship between an abuser and a victim, and fell into a submissive role. She provided the court with videos of Sebastian abusing her, in which he can be heard saying, "Do as I say." Xenia then described what happened on the day of the incident. On May 11th, Sebastian, feeling bored, demanded that she find him another woman, or he would leave her. When Xenia hesitated, Sebastian became angry and threatened to harm her children. So Xenia went out to look for a woman and saw Yangjie. She pretended to ask Yangjie for help moving a box upstairs. Yangjie hesitantly agreed, and as Xenia led Yangjie to the entrance of the apartment building, Sebastian, who was hiding behind the door, suddenly attacked Yangjie. Sebastian, who was 1.85 meters tall and muscular, quickly overpowered Yangjie and forced her into the empty apartment on the first floor, trying to tie her up. But Yangjie fought back relentlessly. Later, Xenia heard her children crying upstairs, so she went to the third-floor apartment. After she calmed her children, Sebastian called her back. Sebastian used Google Translate to communicate with Yangjie, asking if she had any sexually transmitted diseases and if anyone would notice if she disappeared. After getting satisfactory answers, Sebastian started his twisted game. He ordered Xenia to have sex with Yangjie, and Xenia complied, forcing herself to obey, but Yangjie struggled and fought to get free. Sebastian, who watched excitedly, then took matters into his own hands and made Xenia watch. Afterward, Xenia went back upstairs to put her children to sleep. She left while Yangjie was still alive, but returned to find that Sebastian had killed her. Court evidence showed that in addition to sexual assault and physical abuse, Yangjie was strangled and drowned while still alive. Throughout the ordeal, Yangjie fought back, screaming and struggling. She tried her best to survive but eventually stopped moving. Then, with Zenia's help, Sebastian placed Yangjie's body in a large garbage can. Then they dragged her from a first-floor window of the apartment building onto a scaffold and threw her into a nearby pine tree. Evidence from Zenia's testimony, CCTV footage, DNA comparisons, and other forensic tests created a solid murder case against Sebastian. However, Zenia's level of involvement may not be as innocent as she portrays. In May 2017, a year after Yangjie was murdered, Anhalt University held a memorial ceremony on the Dessau campus. An altar with Yangjie's photo was set up, along with fruit and money, following a Chinese tradition of providing the deceased with food and money in the afterlife. They also burned a letter from her parents, hoping the message would reach Yangjie. Her parents expressed their deep longing for her and promised to seek justice for her. The trial finally ended on August 4 of that year. Sebastian Fleck was sentenced to life imprisonment for murder and rape, while Zenia Lang received a lesser sentence of 5 years and 6 months. They were also ordered to pay 60,000 euros in compensation to Yangjie's family. In Germany, if an offender is between 18 and 21 years old, and the crime is not serious, they can be tried under juvenile law. Zenia, who was 19 at the time of the crime, was granted this right, and the murder charges against her were dropped. Both Sebastian and Zenia appealed their convictions. Sebastian argued that he shouldn't be in prison and blamed his lawyer for not getting him out, while Zenia argued that her difficult life circumstances led her to do what she did. In 2018, the federal court rejected their appeals. Yangjie's parents believed Zenia's sentence was too light and that she should have been tried as an adult, but they couldn't change the outcome. Sebastian's mother, Ramona, and stepfather Jörg closed their beer restaurant at the end of 2017, 18 months after it opened. The constant presence of unhappy citizens sitting in protest and telling people what happened to Yangjie, along with harsh online criticism, led to the closure. Ramona and Jörg were never charged. Ramona later returned to her job as a police officer, while Jörg continued to work as police chief in Dessau. In a later interview with a reporter, Ramona didn't mention the victim at all. She only said that Zenia's sentence of 5 years and 6 months was unfair to her son. Sebastian never apologized or expressed remorse. He continued to complain about prison life, and once told the prison psychiatrist, "I am who I am. I don't want to change." In Germany, life imprisonment is the highest penalty since the abolition of the death penalty in 1949. After serving 15 years and passing a risk assessment, inmates who meet certain conditions can be granted parole. So Sebastian Fleck has a good chance of getting out of prison in middle age. This narcissistic, heartless criminal, with an addiction to hurting women, should serve his full sentence. It's important that more people, especially in Germany, are aware of this case. Yangjie's parents lost their only beloved daughter. They brought her ashes back to China, to their home. Yangjie's case has similarities to the case of pregnant woman hunting virgins for husband. Both stories are about innocent girls who fall into a trap while trying to help troubled women. The main perpetrator in this case has already been executed. What saddens me most about Yangjie's case is the terrible torture and murder she suffered. That night, if only Yangjie had turned up her headphones, she might not have heard the demon calling her. If she had followed her gut instinct and denied helping a stranger alone at night, no one would have thought badly of her. Yangjie should still be alive. What do you think about this case? Please share your thoughts and opinions in the comments section. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to my channel.